There's a moment in every natural disaster documentary where someone says, "We never thought it could happen here." In 2026, that phrase may be heard more often than any year in recent memory. But this guide isn't about fear. Think of it the way a sailor checks the weather before heading out to sea, not because they're afraid of the ocean, but because they respect it. Preparation is not pessimism. It is wisdom. 2026 carries an extraordinary concentration of transformative fire energy. The fire horse year, the fire within the horse itself, and the broader 20-year fire period that began in 2024. This triple fire doesn't just shape politics and economies. It has direct, physical consequences for the planet's climate systems. Ancient wisdom traditions tracked these patterns for thousands of years. Modern science increasingly confirms what they observed. Extreme energy years produce extreme weather. So let's walk through what's ahead, together, calmly, with our eyes open. The fire horse represents the sun at its absolute zenith, high noon on the longest day of summer. When you combine this symbolic intensity with ongoing climate patterns and accelerating global warming, you get a year that will challenge temperature records worldwide. But here's what makes 2026 different from just another hottest year headline. The heat will be more persistent, more widespread, and more dangerous. There's a phenomenon called wet bulb heat that most people haven't heard of, but need to understand. Normal dry heat is uncomfortable. You sweat, it evaporates, you cool down. But when extreme heat meets extreme humidity, your body's cooling system simply stops working. Sweat doesn't evaporate. Your core temperature rises, and this can be fatal, even for young, healthy people sitting in the shade with water. South Asia faces the highest risk in May and June, Southern Europe through summer. The American South and Southwest, where heat seasons will start earlier and last longer. And in any major city, the urban heat island effect can push temperatures 10 to 15 degrees above surrounding areas. What can you do? Check your cooling systems now, before summer arrives. Stock water, 1 gallon per person per day, minimum 3 days. Know where your nearest cooling center is. And please, check on elderly neighbors. They are often the most vulnerable and the least likely to ask for help. Wildfires need 3 things: heat to dry out vegetation, dry vegetation to serve as fuel, and wind to spread the flames. In 2026, all 3 conditions will be amplified simultaneously across multiple regions. Western North America faces another severe season. The fires of recent years already displaced communities and choked cities with smoke. This year, the pattern suggests it starts earlier and reaches further. The Mediterranean, Portugal, Spain, southern France, Italy, Greece, is equally at risk. And something many people don't consider: the Amazon rainforest, which we think of as perpetually wet, is increasingly vulnerable to drought that turns tropical forest into dry, burnable tinder. But here's the thing about smoke: it doesn't stay where the fire is. In recent years, Canadian wildfire smoke blanketed New York City, turning skies orange. In 2026, expect more of these events, lasting longer and covering wider areas. Air quality can change in an hour. So even if you live nowhere near fire country, stock N95 or P100 masks. consider a HEPA air filter for your home. If you're in a fire zone, create defensible space around your property. Know your evacuation routes, and keep a go bag ready with documents, medications, and 3 days of supplies. The relationship between fire energy years and seismic activity has been observed in Eastern traditions for centuries. Modern geology uses different language, but the correlation is documented. Periods of heightened solar activity and geomagnetic stress do coincide with increased earthquakes and volcanic events. The Pacific Ring of Fire, that horseshoe of tectonic activity stretching from New Zealand through Japan, across to Alaska, and down the Western Americas, deserves particular attention this year. Japan faces dual risks: earthquake and volcanic activity. Indonesia, Turkey, Italy, and southwestern China round out the areas of highest concern. Analysis from multiple traditions converges on several months of elevated seismic probability: March, June, July, November, and December. These aren't predictions of specific events. They're windows that suggest extra preparedness is worthwhile. What does preparedness look like? Secure heavy furniture to walls. Know where your gas and water shutoffs are. Establish a family communication plan. Cell networks often fail during earthquakes, so designate an out-of-area contact everyone can reach. And practice the basics: drop, cover, hold on. Here's something that surprises many people. One of the most significant risks of a fire year isn't fire, it's water. The logic is elegant in its simplicity. Extreme heat accelerates glacial melting. Warmer oceans fuel more powerful hurricanes and typhoons. Intense heat creates more atmospheric moisture, which falls as more intense rainfall. And drought-hardened ground can't absorb sudden downpours, leading to devastating flash floods. Ancient Chinese texts captured this paradox beautifully. The fire horse year's deeper energy signature is called heavenly river water, Tian He Shui. The fire melts the heavens, and the heavens respond by weeping. The first half of the year leans toward drought in many regions, baking the ground hard, stressing water supplies. Then, around the summer solstice, the pattern reverses. Rain comes, but too much, too fast, onto ground that can no longer absorb it. First drought, then deluge. Florida and the Gulf Coast face an especially active hurricane season. East Asia braces for intensified typhoons. India and Bangladesh anticipate monsoon flooding that may exceed normal preparation. Know your flood zone. Waterproof your important documents. Review your insurance. Standard policies often don't cover flooding. And if evacuation orders come, don't wait. The Himalayas are sometimes called the third pole. They hold more ice than anywhere outside the Arctic and Antarctic. In 2026, extreme heat may push glacial melting to concerning levels. This matters far beyond the mountains. The rivers fed by Himalayan glaciers, the Ganges, Indus, Brahmaputra, Mekong, Yangtze, provide water to nearly 2 billion people. Changes in these glaciers affect water supply, agriculture, and energy production across all of South and East Asia. And beneath the surface, there's an even deeper concern: permafrost. In the Arctic regions of Russia, Canada, and Alaska, ground frozen for thousands of years is thawing, collapsing infrastructure, releasing methane, and potentially reviving ancient pathogens. Everything we've discussed, heat, drought, flooding, storms, converges on one concern that affects everyone: food. Crop yields drop, livestock suffers, pest populations explode after mild winters. Southeast Asian rubber production faces disruption. Grain prices become an early warning signal. Food security is where all these risks meet your daily life. Watch the signals. Keep your pantry stocked. And understand that in a connected world, a drought in one hemisphere can raise prices in another. Let's bring all of this down to earth, literally. A sailor checks the weather. A mountain climber brings extra water. You prepare with love. Love for yourself, your family, your community. Water. 1 gallon per person per day, 3-day minimum supply. This is the foundation of every preparedness plan. Go bag. Medications, copies of important documents, some cash, masks. Keep it by the door. You don't want to be searching for your passport at 3 in the morning. Technology. Battery backups, offline maps on your phone. When the grid goes down, your phone becomes your lifeline, but only if it has power and doesn't need cell service to navigate. Home. Clear debris around your property. Service your cooling systems before they're needed. Know your shutoffs. Know your routes. None of this requires fear. All of it requires intention. Think of preparation as an act of care for the life you've built and the people in it. Now, let's pause. Reading about all of this, heat, fire, earthquakes, floods, can stir up anxiety. Climate anxiety is real, and acknowledging it is not weakness, it's awareness. So let's tend to your inner weather for a moment. Place both feet flat on the floor. Feel the ground supporting you. Breathe in for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Release for 6. Do that once more. Now, bring to mind a time you were in nature and felt at peace. Maybe a forest, a beach, a park bench under a tree. Let yourself feel that calm. Notice the colors, the sounds, the temperature of that memory. This Earth has been through ice ages and asteroid impacts, supervolcanoes and mass extinctions, and life returned every single time, more diverse and more beautiful than before. You are part of that resilience. Hold this truth with you as you move through the year. Resilience is not about being untouched by difficulty. It's about what returns after the storm passes. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, supervolcanoes. Life has always returned, more diverse and beautiful than before. We are part of that resilience. So here's your question to carry with you. What is one small thing you can do this week to prepare, not from fear, but from love? Maybe it's checking your smoke detector batteries. Maybe it's filling a water jug. Maybe it's texting a neighbor you haven't spoken to in months. Maybe it's just taking a breath and deciding that you will meet whatever comes with steady eyes and an open heart. One small thing, that's all. Start there. Here's something the research shows clearly. From Katrina to Fukushima, from Australian bushfires to European floods, the people who fare best in every crisis are not the ones with the most supplies or the biggest bunkers. They are the people with the strongest local networks. Community is the ultimate emergency kit. Check on your neighbors, not after the storm, but now. Share resources, share knowledge, share this guide if it's been helpful. Build the relationships before they're needed, because when the moment comes, those bonds become lifelines. Many people who survive natural disasters report something paradoxical. Alongside the trauma, they experience a deepening of gratitude, a clarification of what truly matters, and a strengthening of community that enriches their lives for years afterward. 2026 may test us, but it will also teach us what we're made of and what we can build together. Every major environmental event carries lessons, and the societies that learn from them become stronger. After devastating fires in Australia, communities returned to indigenous fire management, practices Aboriginal Australians had used for tens of thousands of years. After Katrina, New Orleans rebuilt stronger. After Japan's 2011 earthquake, the world gained a new standard for disaster preparedness. 2026's challenges will similarly accelerate our learning. Better early warning systems, more resilient infrastructure, stronger networks of mutual aid, and perhaps most importantly, a reconnection with the natural world. In our air-conditioned, screen-lit, algorithm-driven lives, it's easy to forget that we're part of nature, not separate from it. Extreme weather, humbling, powerful, beyond our control, reminds us of this truth. That reconnection, while prompted by concern, can blossom into something deeper, a more loving relationship with the planet we live on, which is, ultimately, the only sustainable path forward. I am being warned, but I am also being cared for. That's the spirit to carry through 2026. Eyes open, heart steady, not bracing against the world, but moving through it, with awareness, with preparation, and with trust in your own resilience. The fire that the horse carries is not only destruction. Fire also illuminates, it warms, it transforms. And when we learn to work with its energy rather than against it can light the way forward. Navigate 2026 with eyes open and heart steady. This has been part 2 of our series on navigating the fire horse year. Next, power and politics, a world reshaping itself.